4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Well, before I actually start the whole website here, let me set up the live interview here, the live connection on Instagram. All right, well, as I usually say, welcome to This Week in Caribbean Tech. It's the Caribbean's weekly tech show. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1. I'm your host, Ingrid Riley. I'm the founder of Silicon Caribe Media. Right now, we are live on our Facebook page, Silicon Caribe's Facebook page, and also live on our Instagram page. Yeah, so welcome. So about our first season, I'm going to start off with this before we jump into our interview. About our first season, we had 19 episodes, lots of technical difficulties, great content in terms of our conversations. We tested different kinds of content, got a little bit under 100,000 views in total. It was seen in 35 countries, across 10 Caribbean countries specifically, and we are grateful. We looked at the data, we inhaled your feedback, and we made a few changes. So for Season 2, here's what you can expect. Great conversations with thinkers and doers, actual Caribbean innovators on various topics. So they're going to be, entrepreneurs, executives, with a sort of a dash of a few entrepreneurial change agents who are in the policy side of things. So what we're going for is a lot of thoughtful conversations. We're going to talk about digital trends that we're spotting. And of course, you guys love the fact that we're giving you heads up on certain Caribbean tech events that were happening across the region, in addition to on the diaspora as well. So thank you so much, guys, for putting up with us, for Season 1 of This Week in Caribbean Tech. And now welcome to Season 2, Episode 1. This episode is brought to you by Silicon Caribe Media. My company, Silicon Caribe, is what we call a digital trend tracker, an opportunity connector for Caribbean brands. We publish a weekly blog. We publish this video podcast every week. We sell quarterly trend reports, and we bring it all together for you in what we call inspirational educational events. It's also brought to you by our first big, corporate sponsor, National Commercial Bank Jamaica. It's a Jamaican bank that now wants to disrupt itself by flipping the switch from just being a bank with the largest branch network to becoming a tech company that offers financial services. And of course, we're thankful for our other sponsor, Real Vibe Studio, based out of Florida and Jamaica. It's a motion picture production company and equipment rental company, also based here in Kingston. So that handsome gentleman that you see there, if you're on our Silicon Caribe Facebook page, you guys on Instagram, thank you so much for joining. But if you want to see not just my cute face, and you want to see the handsome face that I'm talking to, then please pop on over to the Silicon Caribe Facebook page to see both of us talking, yeah? So I want to jump right into our interview. This is Darien Sobion. He's a managing director of 10 Caribbean. It's a social media management and influencer marketing company based out of Trinidad. Welcome this, Darien. That is my bastardized Trinidadian accent, yeah?
Wagwan, Ingrid.
Ah!
That's my bastardized Jamaican accent.
Listen, every now and again I may actually slip into Trini because I think that because I've had Trini friends for the past 20 odd years, clearly I am an expert both on the Trini accent and the Trini wine, right? But we'll leave that for another time.
Well, I don't know if you know me, but I actually spent almost half my life in Jamaica as well.
You're kidding me. Where did you stay?
I lived in Kingston, but I actually came first in high school. So I'm an old Wolmerian, and then studied at the University of the West Indies, and actually started my professional life there. I only recently came back to Trinidad about 3 years ago.
Shut the front door. I did not know this.
Yes.
This is good. Well, I mean, as somebody who went to Wolmer's sixth form as well, it's good to have another Wolmerian, talk to another Wolmerian / Trinidadian in there. That's awesome.
At least we didn't plan it, so it wasn't that we colluded on it before.
Oh, this is good. This is good. So the core of what we're going to be talking about this week is the rise of Caribbean digital influencers and influencer marketing. It's very topical these days. Myself, I'm an influencer in the tech space across the region and diaspora, and I've been seeing the palpable, rise of influencers making great careers out of what they do online. And I'm seeing brands who are jumping in influencer marketing. I mean, people who are actually sponsoring this this weekly show is in fact engaging in influencer marketing because it's my show. So, but let's start off first, Darien, by saying, how are we defining digital influence?
Well, the way I'm looking at digital influence, well, first of all, Ingrid, let me just thank you for having me on season 2. First
Happy
episode.
to have you. To you guys who are on Instagram, please join us on Silicon Careers Facebook page to get the full interview. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead.
All right. So when you're thinking of digital influence, you have to start by thinking of persons that shape the opinion of a brand. And
Right.
when you start seeing how influencer marketing is intersected with that, is you have to start considering whether or not those opinions affect their purchase decisions. And what's really important for us is trying to use influencer marketing and so that brands can actively engage in conversations that are happening around their brand and actually shape the conversation and the opinion so that they can build their awareness, increase consideration, and also to increase conversions as well for them.
You're right. This is awesome. And so why do you think that at this particular time? I mean, because influencer marketing is not new. And because, before I call it people who are in the flesh, you have the celebrities, you had your people who are endorsing different brands and that kind of a thing. So it's not new, it's just that it has gone heavily digital. And so because this is where we live, work, and play now, this is pretty much where and the power has definitely shifted from not just celebrities, but to people like you and I who are passionate about something, a topic or a product or whatever it is, and build a community around us. So it's not new. So why is it important for Caribbean brands to engage digital influencers and to engage in influencer marketing now?
Well, I think the big thing for us at 10 Caribbean was that the traditional tools just simply aren't working anymore. So my background is in traditional advertising. Like as I mentioned to you earlier, I was in Jamaica. I actually worked at Prism Communications, which is a traditional advertising agency. We worked with brands like Red Stripe and Digicel and RBC Royal Bank. And when I came back to Trinidad, I was very excited to start working on carnival campaigns. So I remember launching a carnival campaign at an agency that I was with for a beverage company that I wouldn't name. But they gave us a massive budget.
Right.
And we had that traditional approach. Even though they were now launching their digital platforms, we spent a lot on out-of-home advertising. We did the radio jingle, which is typical, 3 different television commercials, press ad. And it wasn't until we were actually rolling out the next campaign that we brought a focus group in. We spoke to the target audience that we were trying to reach during Carnival. And when we asked them about the Carnival campaign, they couldn't remember anything about it. And I think they couldn't remember the tagline. Nobody remembered seeing the billboards. And these were expensive billboards that were set up around the Savannah or around Woodbrook. And I think then and there, I kind of realized that the traditional route isn't working. That even when I got into digital advertising full time, I realized that the traditional tools in digital advertising aren't working as well. Because there's this kind of template that we have.
Yes. What do you mean by traditional digital tools? Because if you've been around for a while, you know that you're in the digital marketing space. We're now at the stage where we can actually call some of the tools traditional. So,
right.
Let me know what you think about that.
I mean, it's like a small business. We're looking at really just creating a simple website that acts as a landing page, creating a Facebook page, and then spending behind it. That seems to be the approach that a lot of persons have. And it's no longer working. I think everyone has pretty much trained themselves now to see a sponsored post on their timeline, to know that that's alien from their timeline, and it's not something that they want to engage with. And I'm not saying that a really disruptive, impactful digital advertising campaign can't work as well. But the way that influencer marketing works is that it's actually not something that's alien to your timeline. It means that it's a person that you're following, that you're interested in, whose opinion actually matters to you. And when they speak, definitely when they speak positively on a brand, or even worse, if they speak negatively about a brand, people are paying attention.
Right.
So it's this whole idea of stopping the scroll, which is the term that we kind of use at TED. So there's a tendency persons have to just kind of scroll through their timelines. If something is really interesting, they might slow down a little bit. But with an influencer, you're definitely going to get that stuff.
Yeah. Well, interesting. If I can just pop into what you said earlier, where about digital advertising, without question, I mean, Facebook and Google have made billions and will continue to make billions. And it is still very cheap. And in some respects, if you're really good, very effective to do like Facebook ads. I mean, the arbitrage on that is awesome. Right. But you're right. I mean, there are a couple of, reports that came out last year that about two things regarding digital advertising. One, people are really actually tired of it. They're seeing thousands and thousands of messages online every day, and they're now gone to the point now where they're actually blocking the ads. Not just the telecom companies are blocking ads, but consumers are blocking ads. And so the beautiful thing about having an influencer, as you said, when they create native content, and it is not staged because it is reflective of their language and their style and how they're using their style of storytelling to talk about a brand and talk about a particular product or service, it seems natural. It seems, fitting in with everything there, and it comes across as more genuine. It connects with, people who are reading, watching, and experiencing that particular brand in that particular context. And I think a lot of people need to get more into that. Yeah.
I think that's also one of the things that's very important to us when it comes to influencer marketing. It's just that authenticity of it as well. So what we try as best as possible to do is partner influencers with the brands that they love. So it's not a question of you having to jeopardize your integrity to support a brand that you wouldn't necessarily use in your daily life. Right. So I think that's extremely important. And even when you look at how you engage influencers, I think there's this tendency, and I guess it's something that we will get to further on in the discussion when we talk about some of the trends that I'd like to see. But there's this tendency now to essentially use an influencer almost like a billboard, which means that you would send them whatever artwork that you've created, your caption that you've created, including your hashtag and the page that they should tag, and giving them very little creative control over what they produce. But the whole reason that you've engaged an influencer is because they've been producing great content. And I think if you are taking away that creative control from them, then you're starting to lose the whole efficacy of it.
I agree. It's somewhat of a co-creation process between the brand and the influencer, and sometimes also too just having the content creator, the influencer, absorb all that the essence of your brand and what it is that you're seeking to achieve, and have them lead in terms of the strategy and the content creation, and trust that things will happen for them, and also they will deliver on that very crucial ROI. You know what I mean? So
it's extremely important.
Very important. So what sort of global trends or Caribbean trends you're seeing, especially in terms of influencer marketing?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned co-creation, because that's definitely one of the kind of hallmarks of our company as well. We really want us, it's something that I want to see as, it's been a global trend for some time. It's kind of now picking up speed in the Caribbean, where you will get influencers, but you get them involved from very early on in the process. So that it's not simply, and it's a problem that we have with digital advertising in general. I'm sure you could attest to this, which is that there's a traditional advertising campaign that is then fully developed and passed on to a digital agency, and it says, okay, now execute that in digital, without any consideration for getting the digital team involved from very early on. And I think that's the approach that you need to take for digital, but also take with your influencers. So if it is that you're considering launching a new product, from the time that you're launching that product, consider how you would integrate influencer marketing into it, and that it would be a part of the campaign execution going forward. I think that's a really big one for me. In terms of other digital trends, I mean, I'm really looking forward to us getting more into personalization. I think it's something that's really been missing in the Caribbean in particular. And when I say personalization, I don't mean that you take somebody's first name from an email database and you slap it onto an e-blast. Like, it has to be a lot more than that. Like, you really have to consider the sales funnel, consider where that person is in their purchasing journey, and connect with them with relevant messaging. I think we have the kind of data that can do that. At least some brands do. And it definitely needs to be a strategic focus that we're collecting the kind of data that we need to make sure that we're giving person relevant ads.
And that's the other thing too. I'm realizing that while there's an awareness that, there is, data is the new oil, and that's really where, you get to really get to know and get real close to your consumer. A lot of brands have been lazy, whether they be lazy or they just simply don't know because they don't have the expertise in-house to look at the data, to analyze the data, to tease out relevant things in the data and craft profiles, strategies, and everything from that. So how important is data to digital influence and influencer marketing?
Well, for me, it's extremely important. And then for us as a company, I mean, one of our founding principles is actually the whole idea of strength in numbers, which is actually, well, of course, a play on the name 10 Caribbean, but it's also just the idea that data is critical and having information. And I would say the two stages that are most important for me is really before and after, but having the data during is also very important.
Yes, so because you can do different things while the campaign is going on. You can tweak.
That's the lovely thing about digital. So you have the opportunity before you start to really be specific about who you want to target by using the information that exists on your page, or by actually just going out and looking at the relevant hashtags and keywords that are really useful. Then when you're during your campaign, it's the whole idea of that kind of A/B testing, so that you would be able to test the different call to action, test different types of ads and images to see which ones are working and tweak accordingly. But then finally, when you have already executed your campaign, at the end of your campaign now, it's using the information from your report and really mining that information and making sure that you make it useful as you go forward. So that it's not that you just, it's something that you don't have that benefit if you're running a billboard campaign, or you're running a radio ad, or you're running a newspaper ad. Because, well, I can't remember how bad things are in Jamaica, but I definitely know in Trinidad when I got back here. In terms of media reports, we were 3 to 4 years behind. So there was no way that you could actually say, this is the top television show at this time, or the top radio station that you want to be on, as opposed to digital, where you know you're going to get real-time information and you can act on it.
There are sometimes I feel that some brands are scared of data because it will mean that they maybe either have been wasting money, or they're really going to have to fundamentally change the way they actually approach their marketing efforts. I mean, there's a thing happening in Jamaica now, which I just simply don't understand. There's a rush of electronic billboards on the streets. I was like, who the backside is watching them? Right? They're video boards, right? And most of the time you're in your car, and of course they're strategically placed, also very illegally placed in certain places, which is not supposed to be the case, and cause traffic jam. Or if you're in a traffic jam, I guess the rationale is, if I'm in a traffic jam and I cannot just watch this ad, everybody's like this with their phones, right? So I'm not understanding that trend, but whoever's doing that job is doing a fantastic sales job, right?
But then, I think what we tend to do as marketers sometimes is advertise to other marketers. So
nobody ever loses their job by doing the same old, right?
Oh no, you can definitely stay in the safe lane. But I mean, it's about taking calculated risks, and I think that's what you have the opportunity to do with digital. Again, once you take advantage of the data that's provided to you.
Without question. Now, before we go on to another part of what we want to discuss, we'll look at the kind of influencers, how we're categorizing them, and who these Caribbean digital influencers are. thank you guys so much for here. Please, as usual, shout out and tell us where you are watching This Week in Caribbean Tech from, which part of the country. I'm seeing some of our regulars. Philip from Trinidad. I saw Suzette pop in from Washington D.C. Just as usual, please just tell us where you are watching our show from. All right, so about these kind of influencers now, because everybody, because of things are trending that way, everybody's an influencer. But where are we actually seeing, who are the Caribbean digital influencers? What are they looking like? Are they bloggers, mostly vloggers, Instagram people? What are you seeing on the ground and in the market?
Okay, well, let me just take the opportunity first, Ingrid, as you were asking persons where they're signing in from, to say hello to my team from Geneva, Switzerland.
I see them, right?
Yeah, they've been messaging since they signed in. So, in terms of where we're seeing like the really influential persons, I mean, it's tricky because I try not to be a platform elitist. So
Right.
I don't think it necessarily means that you have to be on Instagram or you have to be on YouTube or to be everywhere to be influential.
Right.
I think for me, what really matters most, and for us as a company, what really matters most is the quality of the content that you produce.
Yes.
What is your level of expertise in the area that you're seeking to be an influencer? And then what is the engagement rate that you have with your followers? I think that's really what's most important, because there tends to be this approach that you need to be on Snapchat, because Snapchat is the new hot thing and brands are all rushing towards Snapchat. But then all it takes is for Instagram stories to come up. And then all of a sudden Snapchat usage is dropped. And do you then drop the platform as quickly as you've adopted it? I think is what's important to me. Are you really constantly looking at where it's best for you to engage with your followers and to deliver your message to them?
Yeah, because I mean, what I'm seeing lately in terms of the type of influencers that are popping up, I see Instagram models, I see bloggers, vloggers getting a lot of traction and calls. I am a big believer in terms of when I meet with brands to discuss influencer marketing campaigns, I was like, you have to think about a multi-channel approach. And you have to be clear about what your ROI is in terms of is it likes you want, is it a click-through way to somewhere, is it engagement, because engagement is now the new impressions scenario. Because really influencer marketing is about brand awareness, brand outreach, that sort of a customized and true customer target marketing. But we have, because in this report that I've actually done, they say that they have 4 different types of levels of influencers. You have your celebrity, you have your macro, you have your medium, you have your micro influencers. And one of the trends is that micro influencers are supposed to be, the shit this year. And these are ones that are, have between 1,000 and up to 10, or sometimes I think 25,000 is the range. Followers, whether it is on Twitter or on or Instagram. And they're saying that micro influencers are a little bit more closer to their communities. And the level of engagement and intimacy with micro influencers tend to be stronger and actually deliver better ROI on brands. Now, first, what do you think about these varying levels of influencers that have been categorized globally now, which is now almost like a global best practice?
Right. Okay. Well, I'll start with a story. So when we launched, because we launched on the 10th of November, we launched with an influencer campaign, because it was very important for us to actually prove that influencer marketing works in the Caribbean. So we didn't do any sponsored ads. We didn't do any SEM marketing. We literally just from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. rolled out and launched a new influencer every hour. And these were primarily micro influencers. What we saw over the course of, well, let's say 10 days, since I'm on the number 10 today, is hundreds of clicks through to our website, thousands of video views, tens of thousands of actual profile views on Instagram and Facebook. And it proved for me that it doesn't need you don't need a celebrity endorsement anymore. Like, I think that's what a lot of people think. So like after we launched the campaign and I would go out like in the weeks following, I would have friends coming up to me constantly and just being like, so I'm not an influencer. How come you didn't call me for the campaign? And and my answer to all of them was always, yes, you are an influencer, but it just depends on what your level of influence is. And you don't need to be a celebrity to be able to actually shape people's opinions.
Right. Exactly.
You can have 2,000 followers that are extremely passionate about what you do. Let's say, for example, it's Christmas decorations.
Right.
And as long as you continue to be an expert and on the cutting edge of Christmas decorating, then you will continue to be an influencer in that range.
Yeah. And so, as we talked about the varying levels of, digital influencers globally and regionally, let's talk about the money behind it. The business of digital influence and the business of influencer marketing. So are we saying then now that being a digital influencer is like a legit career choice in the Caribbean now?
I think it's a little tricky. I wouldn't ask anybody to quit their day job.
Okay.
I think the challenge in the industry is that it's still changing. So that a lot of brands still have the kind of spray and pray approach. So they believe that they can just send out a bunch of free product or invite influencers to events and hoping that they will turn up and post. Which I think more and more they're coming to realize that this isn't going to work going forward. And I think influencers too are becoming a little bit more savvy and respecting their value a lot more than that. So it's one of the.
I agree.
So it's one of the important things for us. So like we actually have for influencers that we sign, we have a 10 commandments, and one of the 10 commandments is to keep thy reach and thy engagement holy. So it essentially means don't do anything for free.
Love that.
Because I think we're past the point now because the brands see the value in what you do. You've spent a lot of time and effort creating a following. Your followers actually care about what you say, and you shouldn't be giving away free promos just because essentially what it does is it lowers the standard across the industry.
It means
that because if they know that they can get the milk for free, then why would you buy the cow?
I agree. And there has been this rabid discussion in Jamaica, especially over the last 18 months, particularly among bloggers and Instagrammers, but particularly among bloggers, because people who want to invite to their events and they want to, live tweet or do Instagram stories and you'll get a ticket. And people were like bum rushing. I was like, people stop. Come on. That whole exchange for freeness, as we call it in Jamaica, you need to stop. Did you not spend time, creating content? Did you not spend time marketing and building a community? Did you not spend time creating this influence and currency that you have? Then why are you giving it away simply for a ticket? Regardless of how much the ticket costs, the ticket could all cost $500. That's besides the point. That's supposed to be a part of your package. Now, what I'm finding is that a lot of influencers do not know how to negotiate the business of what they do. And so that's why it is an easy thing for them to say, all right, I'll take the ticket and the free transportation and I'm good to go. You know what I mean? So
I mean, and excuse the shameless plug here, but it's one of the things that we do very well is that we negotiate for influencers on their behalf.
Yeah.
So like I remember actually for a Christmas campaign that we did at Influencer, and like I discussed the entire campaign rollout with her, and I said, okay, well, so let's meet up tomorrow and just kind of finalize payment. And she was surprised. She was like, oh, I thought I was doing this for free. And I was like, no, like it's very important for us to make sure that you get paid because what you do is valuable. And the brands know that what you do is valuable. And I think, the industry is changing. Like, so a lot of persons are turning the corner that they know that it's a lot more beneficial. You pay them, you have very specific outlines in terms of what needs to be posted and when, and then they compensate them accordingly because it works a lot better than if you're just begging somebody a ticket, which is what it ends up boiling down to. Yeah, that if so I gave you a ticket, so I'm begging you to do a post from my event.
So
But
what are the
if you
general
know for sure that
parameters
you have a
which you
pardon me?
negotiate on? What are the general parameters under which you negotiate a deal with a brand? On what
Okay.
basis you negotiate deals? Like, is it
Well,
depending on the number of followers, their ability to have engagement levels of this amount, so therefore, based on these particular criteria, we're going to charge you $250 per post for X period of time. How do
okay.
you go about negotiate?
All right. So what we did was when we were launching, we actually developed an algorithm that allows us to assess all our influencers based not
Awesome.
simply on their reach, but based on their age, based on different types of other indicators. But when we engage with a brand, it's not really so much from the point of view of, okay, so this influencer has 500 followers, therefore we will charge you this much for that influencer. It's really
Right.
more about what the brand seeks to achieve.
Right.
So it's what we try to do is take all the hassle out of influencer marketing. So I
Okay.
think the reason a lot of persons are apprehensive is because they first don't know which influencers they should contact. They don't know how much they should compensate an influencer.
Right.
They don't know who will be monitoring this influencer to make sure that they're actually doing what they promised and they're getting what they paid for.
Right. Right.
And what we do is we try to take as much of that burden off, and we base our packages on that. So based on the fact that you would want to get a report afterwards, or you want to engage 5 different influencers to achieve this purpose, that's how we develop our costing and negotiation from there.
Okay.
And it's been working pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing that because I'm a digital strategist outside of what I do with Silicon Caribe Media, and that was what I was doing. And so it's based on that. So, you go the sort of a internal route and speak to the brand first, and then I know how to negotiate for me because I'm negotiating really stuff for me. Right. But, I was reading and in the report that I'm going to be publishing publishing tomorrow on siliconcaribe.com, they said that micro influencers who have a community of between 1 and 10,000 people on Instagram or whichever channel that they occupy can now charge at least $250 per post. Is that true?
In the Caribbean, no. There's
No?
absolutely no way. Maybe $250 Jamaican.
No. No. $250 Jamaican is like $2. Right?
No, but I think you're going to have a tough time selling that into a brand. Again, it really depends on the level of influence that you have, and again, on the amount of expertise that you have in your field. But I think we're still a ways to go before we're actually there just yet.
Okay. Now, we had spoken about that brands are now turning. We have know that influencers have now turned the corner in terms of they're actually charging for their currency and for their services, and brands also they now understand the value. But are they, because I've been approached for like one-off campaigns, and now I have a stickler. If it's not for 6 months long or 1 year long, I ain't want it. Yeah, I don't want it because as a digital strategist, it takes time for certain things to happen. And of course, this is outside of maybe doing a live event or something like that. So are we finding that more Caribbean brands are actually in it for committed to long-term and long-time campaigns?
Well, that's the approach that we have as well. So I really don't think that a one-off campaign works. It can work. It doesn't work as well as it could. So what you really need to think about is not just, so I want to speak generally about digital marketing, not just digital for a particular campaign or influencer marketing for a particular product launch, but really thinking about a thoroughly well thought out integrated campaign that includes influencer marketing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you will have an influencer that you would use for an entire year. But it could mean that you would use different groups of influencers over a couple of months, so that you have 3 persons that you use for 4 months, you use and you can reach different target audiences over that time. But I definitely don't think you should be looking at it as just a short-term solution.
Right, because most people tend to come to you for like 3 month long or 30-day contracts, and sometimes you have to go in and resell and find out what's going on What is it that I really want to achieve, and then negotiate from that path. So, I mean, what are the top things that Caribbean brands need to be thinking about this particular year in 2018 regarding influencer marketing? Like your top 3 things that they should be thinking about.
I would say number 1, they should definitely be thinking about 10 Caribbean.
Yeah, I love
and working with us.
Work that, work it.
No. But we only launched in Trinidad, but yes, we'll be coming Caribbean-wide soon. So definitely think about us, sign up at Caribbean10.com.
Right.
Otherwise, I definitely think the partnerships is extremely key. Not thinking about it as just one-off.
Right.
I'm trying to think what else is extremely important. I mean, we've already discussed this, but for me, it's also the rise of the micro-influencer. So it's really getting out of that era of the celebrity spokesperson. I mean, I guess it works if you're a regional brand that you want to build awareness or maintain awareness. But you really need to start. And again, I think it's one of the challenges that a lot of persons have is that they don't know where to start.
Yes.
But you really need to start thinking about exactly who your target audience is, exactly who you want to reach and why, and then finding influencers that work in that niche.
Yeah.
And another shameless plug, we do that extremely well. So if you don't know where to look for your influencers, we can help you.
Yeah, and also, if I may add to that too, that they not just look for them, but also get to know them. I mean, before you even approach them, get to know their work, get to know what kind of blogs they may write or videos they may produce or whatever it is. Get to know them and even start developing in a soft way, develop relationships with them online. It could be simply commenting on what they've done, that kind of thing. But it's also sort of put yourself a little bit. It's almost like dating, business dating. Before you seek to get into a marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and like I spoke before, I mean, just like a relationship, there needs to be that level of trust as well. So
that's correct.
The brand has to be willing to trust the creative opinion of the influencer and really give them the kind of like you can't continue to just kind of hang over their shoulders and dictate everything that they produce. You're going to have a fundamental understanding of what the strategic approach is and be willing to let go of the reins to some degree.
But before I let you go, question is, how are Caribbean brands defining success in influencer marketing now?
I'm going to go back to measurement, and it really depends on what your objectives are. So I can use an example from a campaign that we actually did for a Caribbean brand, fashion brand. And the approach that they took was to actually do through e-commerce to have a discount code so that anybody that made a purchase based on the influencer's discount code, the influencer would actually get a percentage of the sale, essentially like a commission.
Nice.
And it worked extremely well. So like on the day that the campaign actually launched, what we found was on the website, persons actually purchasing the exact same clothes that she was wearing in her posts. And like that was something that worked specifically for that brand, but you really need to determine exactly what your metrics are, what your key performance indicators are, and then be able to roll out and execute against that strategy.
Right, because as you start with begin with the end in mind. And so you're very, very clear about what your success is supposed to look like at the end of that particular time, But before I let you go, I have one last question for you, Darien. Okay. So outside of influencer marketing, what are maybe some of the digital trends or digital culture trends or digital lifestyle trends that's caught your eye lately? Just you observing things online.
I think what I'm excited about and definitely seeing a lot more of it in the Caribbean is that kind of offline online experience. So that it's kind of like a mix of experiential marketing, but also with digital marketing. So that like one of the things, and I'll just throw this out as a freebie for any sports brands that might be there. But like we're headed into like carnival time now. One of the big things that always happen heading into carnival is we have a ton of persons that would hit the savannah and start running their laps right at the beginning of the year, hoping that 6 weeks is enough to actually get into shape for carnival.
That's
And
right.
I've always thought about just simply having a little like time clock around the savannah that
Right.
would be sponsored by a sports brand. Somebody does a lap. If they have the fastest lap for the day, they might get a free sports drink. It's that whole idea of having a digital execution that's actually connected in person's real lives. And I think that's what's really been missing from us in the Caribbean now.
You see that whole sports thing? You should come to Jamaica with, you hear?
Yeah,
Because I
could probably,
I love my
I could try
friends,
that
but we're still the
emancipation
sports
pack.
capital. We're still the sports
I'll try
capital
that
of the
emancipation pack.
Caribbean. You could definitely could, yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I'm excited about seeing.
But thank you so much, Darien. I really appreciate this. Thank you for dropping a lot of really valuable pieces and engaging me with discussions about this business of digital influence in the Caribbean and influence of marketing in the Caribbean. I hope that whoever's been watching from wherever you are in the world, you've definitely gotten some interesting things to chew on. Before you go, again, I was saying that we're thankful for our sponsors, National Commercial Bank. It's the bank that now wants to disrupt itself by becoming a tech company that offers financial services. They now have an agile lab and an innovation lab. So it's going to be interesting to see what they actually come out with this year. And of course, thankful to Real Vibe Studio, a motion picture production and equipment rental here based in Kingston. Now, Darien is going to leave me. But I hope you guys stay with me. I have two things for you. We're going to talk about, in fact, Darien, stay right there. It's going to be short. Yeah? It's going to be short. What we usually do after our interviews is we tell you about Caribbean Tech events coming up. And we have two that we want to talk to you about. In a very shameless plug, we have our event, Silicon Caribe. We produce the most events for startups and across the region. Kingston Beta. We just finished celebrating our 10th anniversary. Kingston Beta is the event that is really become the hub of Jamaica's tech startup scene. We're having this year as a focus, youth and women-led innovation. So our first event is Thursday, January 25th, usual time, usual place. For all of you who don't know what that is, then go to kingstonbeta.com for the announcement of our next venue and more. And the second event that I want to tell you about is LeaderCast Conference. It's happening on May 4th this year. Join a whole bunch of, like over 100,000 leaders across the globe who listen to LeaderCast about leadership and leadership in the 21st century. Our Jamaican entrepreneur and podcaster, Henika Watkis Porter, will host the live event here in Jamaica. And of course, we have one special announcement, and that's simply this, because it's something that I, as an influencer, do. So tomorrow at 1 p.m. Jamaica time, I'll be releasing Sun, Sea, and Digital Influence, the status and trends and opportunities for Caribbean brands and influencer marketing. It's a blog post. It's a downloadable, PDF. So if you're an influencer, working out of if you're an influencer or you're a Caribbean brand seeking to work with influencers, then this special report will come out tomorrow, Friday, January 5th, 1 p.m. Jamaica time, EST, at siliconcaribe.com. So go check on that tomorrow, read it, leave a comment, and share it, share with others if you found it useful. And of course, this video and this episode will go into our archives, and you'll be able to access it, share it with your friends who can, of course, watch a replay. So thank you so much, Darien Sobion, Managing Director of 10 Caribbean. Thank you all for listening and watching This Week in Caribbean Tech. It's episode 1 of season 2. If you found value here, please do share it with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you so much to our sponsors, NCB and Real Vibes. Of course, we're always interested in if you're interested in becoming a sponsor, we have 4 spots left. Just email me, Ingrid at siliconcaribe.com. Watch out for our YouTube channel shortly. And of course, join our community on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So see you all next week. Same time, same place. I'm Ingrid Riley. Peace.